Doobie doobie doo, doobie doobie doo, doobie doo, part 2.
That was a nice one.
You just said you wanted to add something to part 1 about the woman issue in Israel.
The woman issue in general.
In general, okay.
Yeah,
let's go.
because you asked me about that and I kind of went to a different place.
Right.
I tend to do that sometimes. But,
Okay, so let's start from here.
Yeah, I feel that being a female musician definitely required me to. I mean, it depends, because on one hand I feel that it made me fight a bit more for things, not to be objectified, not to even give the slightest hints to male musicians I work with, which are the most of them, that they have any sort of chance to approach or to look at things. You know, when it's business, it's business. When it's art, and that's how I come across. And you know, I was lucky enough maybe to have a very strong message, but I know many other women musicians that had a real issue with that thing, like, you know, that they've been feeling maybe they're being called to a gig because there is an agenda behind, you know, what's really happening. And on the other hand, I feel it does give the music something warm and beautiful, and it does make people sometimes react differently when you see a strong woman on stage playing. I love hearing strong women playing music. It's beautiful to me.
For example, who?
For example, Björk is a very beautiful artist that I love, and even people that live here, when I hear Anat Cohen play clarinet, I love it. It's like a lot of great women. In salsa, when I see the singers. But I feel that sometimes it's not. It's hard to understand how it is to be on the other side of things. It's really easy to say, "Oh, you exaggerate." You know, I get it sometimes when I'm offended by something that someone said. "Oh, you know, she exaggerates. What are you making a big deal out of that?"
As a woman.
As a woman,
Right.
you know, you're being too emotional and sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Being a man, it's really easy to say that. It's really easy to say that because you're not walking down the streets being called at every day or throwing remarks at, and just live your life. I feel a bit differently, you know, and I'm really happy with life. I'm happy with being a woman, and I expect my fellow male musicians that call me to work with to get the minimum amount of respect, which means I am your fellow musician, and if you want to make art, make music, that's great, and let's keep it there. Not like I don't want to hear, even if you have some opinions, I don't want to hear them. You know, if I feel that they're being derogatory towards women, for example. Just because I had something like that lately, I feel very emotional about that. So, you know, I hope many male musicians get to see that video.
Well, you're lucky that you don't have me around you all the time, because I can be sometimes too much even to women.
No, but...
Because I'm a man, you know, as a man, yeah, actually, I totally agree, but sometimes I get nasty to women. Because I say, because there
give me an example.
Very simple example. We had here at Michiko's Studios, we had a Japan fundraising concert event on the 11th. Last week, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And what happened, there was an Asian woman playing the bass. And she was kind of small, and the bass also was a little small. And after she played, I had a little chat, and I said, "It's unbelievable. You played like a man, which is so strong." And there was another woman who heard that, you know. So when I finished my conversation with her, she came, "Sorab, how can you say that?" I said, "What?" "That was nasty. That wasn't good to tell her that she plays like a man." I said, "What?" I wanted just to say that she played so strong, and it was played so well, because the image is that only man can play bass. So I wanted to say, it was exceptional good, and then for an Asian, because the bass is so strong, and a small lady playing that of a big sound. I thought, what can I say better? I mean, and she said, no, that wasn't nice. It was really chauvinistic and so. And I said, yeah, what about her? Did she feel bad about it? I didn't feel that she felt it. So why are you so concerned about it? So, but
yeah, I guess it depends. Actually, in that matter, I don't think I would be hurt. I think I would say, I just play like a woman, which means like very, very good. I mean, I would probably have I would probably be just like humorous about it, because I know you meant physically, because double bass is a physical instrument.
Yes.
And like, but if you would come to a female saxophone player and said that, I would be like, why do you need to say that? I mean, but
it's different. I totally agree.
It's different. So I mean, I could see the point.
But I could see the point that she reacted like this. I mean, if I meet that lady again, I would say, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that I loved your bass. I used the wrong sentence or image, or but but I know how men can be sometimes very rude and so, and it's we have women, we have men, so it happens. It's just when you say something which is wrong, and you're wrong, and you can apologize, that's important. It's not the thing that you discriminate somebody. It's the act after the discrimination is important.
Yeah, and it's important also for people, regardless of their gender, to speak their mind and to say how they feel, to say if something hurt them. I think it's important not to be too sensitive. I mean, I can have dirty jokes, and I'm a very light person. But when it comes to a point where I feel something is biased there, that's all. I guess that's it.
Good. Let's go back to music. What I really like to know is, because, sorry, I don't have any image of Israel music. Mm-hmm. When you say American music, you could say jazz, you could say rock and roll, you could say country, but how would you describe Israel music? Is there a prototype of a style which you could call? Of course, I know what klezmer is, okay, but for me, still, klezmer is not really.
I wouldn't say klezmer is Israeli music necessarily.
Okay, could you
elaborate a bit?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel that, and that's exactly the thought that came to mind when I was playing with a lot of people that I feel definitely have strong roots, and you can say what Cuban music is and what Argentinian music is very easily, and that actually made me think what it means to be Israeli and what is Israeli music, and how come I feel it's very easy for Israelis to play other people's music, but what it means to look at our roots. So that took me on a little journey, actually, and I started listening to older music from composers that lived in Israel even before it became State of Israel, more like the 30s and 40s. And what was amazing is that those people, some of them came from Europe, and they were classical composers, yet they met the Bedouin and Arabs who lived in Israel, and they heard the music, and it was interesting to them and different. So they were influenced by that. So you hear kind of classical formed songs with some maqams and some Arabic
You mean Western
scales.
classical music, right? When you say
If I mean?
When you said classical music, did you mean Western classical?
Yeah. Sorry, definitely.
No.
Western classical music and Western harmonies and everything, but then you hear something that is different, and something like a seed that was planted, of that interesting melting pot. And I feel that today in Israel you either get American pop music, in Hebrew, or that you get the Mizrahi music that is like more pop Middle Eastern, or that you get, that's mostly what you get. And then I really miss that meeting between those styles, because that I feel is unique in Israel. It's not this or that or that. You have people from Yemen, and from Morocco, and from Russia, and from Germany, and from Kurdistan. And what's beautiful is that all that music together.
And from Iran.
Yeah, definitely. And what's beautiful is to be able to understand or to at least taste some of those styles and to bring them into being an improviser, which is to me being a jazz musician. It's beautiful because I have the ability to try and improvise in those styles as well. And unfortunately, we're not being taught as living in Israel and starting to be musicians, the Middle Eastern theory, for example, or classical Arabic music, which is beautiful. And for example, when I spoke to a friend of mine from Lebanon, they study both. And I feel that we really miss on something when we don't have that, because we're not a European country. and we study jazz and we study classical music, and that's it. And so what I'm trying to do is to try and bring those styles, and I play here also Middle Eastern music and Moroccan music, and study the maqams. I mean, it takes years to study that, and just slowly I try to integrate that into my melodies and into jazz.
And that would be then maybe the first Israeli music?
The first is... No, I mean, people are doing it. There is a notion of people that are now doing it, and it's great. The more I do it, the more I meet people that do it also, and I feel it was done before. I just feel that it was a bit left at some point, and then went into some more mainstream, some divisions, instead of like, what can we do together to make this thing, to make a modern Israeli art, or I don't know how.
So Yemen Blues is a good example then for that, isn't it?
Yemen Blues is an interesting example because actually when I started working on the CD and I started playing with Omer Avital, who is the bassist and the arranger for the music in Yemen Blues, I definitely felt like I met someone who is in the same journey as mine. That's why he's on my record, and that was a beautiful meeting. And when he called me to play in Yemen Blues, what I liked is that his spirit is definitely there, which is, you hear the Middle Eastern music, and Ravid definitely has the Yemenite voice, but you also get the jazz and the blues and the classical, and the orchestrations are interesting, and I think that's great. That's definitely a good example. Yeah.
So to close part 2, it seems like you are one of the many Israeli young players who are creating the Israeli sound of tomorrow. Is it correct?
I would like to think that. I have no problem seeing myself as a part of a notion. I mean, I think there are amazing musicians, Israeli musicians here, and I'm proud to be a part of the scene.
Good.